Welcome to the Municipal Professional Series produced by Future Cities Africa in collaboration with Ignite. Over 20 years experience, Ignite doesn't theorize about professionalization. They build it inside the institutions that need it most. Today we start at the beginning, what professionalization really means and why local government keeps getting it wrong. My guest is Ati Butler, CEO of Ignite. Let's get into it. Ati, welcome. You've spent over 20 years working inside South Africa's most complex municipalities. What does a municipality that is genuinely failing on professionalization actually look like from the inside? And how common is that picture?
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity. We are discussing a topic today that's very close to my heart. And I think if we really want to change municipalities, then we need to focus on professionalization. And hopefully through the session, and as we discuss professionalization in a bit more detail, you will understand what I mean when I say we need to professionalize municipalities, because that's the only way that municipalities will survive going forward. So the first thing I would like to say is that professionalization is actually fairly complex. It is not as straightforward as it is within the various pieces of documentation that we see. And a municipality failing on professionalization does not necessarily look completely dysfunctional. Sometimes it does, but most of the time I believe, or municipalities believe that they professionalize and they are professionalized, and because they've got systems in place, they've got policies in place, they have processes, they follow the standard recruitment processes, they do have performance management, and they do provide training, and they do submit reports to their various committees. So vacancies are advertised, and everybody do something. And sometimes some of them actually receive clean audits as well. But when you start looking underneath all these activities that looks very busy and looks good, then you will find a different picture. So why do I say that? You will find people appointed into positions without properly establishing whether they have the competencies that they have to perform to, and whether they do perform in those positions as it is expected from them. You will find generic job descriptions that have little relationship with what people actually do. You will find organizational structures that have grown historically. Every time when we do organizational structure, we just add positions because we've got supposedly more functions. But at the end of the day, the organizational structure does not align with all the requirements and the long-term strategy of the municipality. You'll find performance management that has become a compliance exercise, and you'll see that a lot in municipalities, especially with the individual performance that they start to roll out now. That you'll find a lot of compliance, but very little use of performance as a management tool. Managers are reluctant to differentiate between excellence and poor performance, and often do not actually understand performance management themselves. Personal development plans do exist on paper, but are they really building capability? And that's a question I keep on asking, and I keep on getting the wrong answers. Consequence management is inconsistent, and managers do not understand optimization. Available data is not structured in such a way that it supports optimization. So there's a lot of data available, but if you don't package it, and if you don't understand the value of the data, then you won't be able to optimize. And processes are therefore not optimized. Okay, and this has a direct impact on staff structures and also on capability enhancement. So that for me is a real professionalization problem, and it is far more common than we sometimes admit when we look at municipalities. And when we talk to municipal managers, then they would say, "No, I've professionalized, I'm good." But if you look at all this detail, then it's definitely not the case. So the fact that government is now explicitly targeting competent staffing, professionalization, performance management, and ethical leadership tells us that these are systematic issues rather than isolated failures. Okay, so the question for me that I want to ask for municipalities, does the municipality consistently put the right people with the right competencies in the right roles, hold them accountable for the right outcomes, and continuously improve and optimize processes? If your answer is no, then you haven't professionalized your municipality yet.
You've noted that people attend sessions on professionalization, engage with the content, and still leave without grasping what it actually requires. Where does that misunderstanding come from, and what does it cost local government every time someone walks away thinking this is an HR initiative?
I actually want to give you a very long answer, but I'm going to try to keep it short and focused. So, first of all, I think that we have made professionalization unnecessarily complicated and very theory based. Okay, so if you look at Salga, government, and others, talks about frameworks, they talk about regulations, they talk about competencies, they talk about minimum requirements, they talk about performance systems, and the implementation of professional bodies. Now, all of these are very important. That is definitely part of professionalization, and we need to make sure that we address all the elements. But what we need to make sure as well is that all these type of things does not become an HR function, and it does not become a a compliance program. Okay, and that is where we lose them at the end of the day when we think it's a HR function or it's a compliance function. Why? Because HR may coordinate parts of professionalization, but HR cannot professionalize a municipality on its own. If a municipal manager does not own it, if the executive management does not own it, um, and if every manager does not understand their role in it, professionalization becomes another corporate services project. And the cost of misunderstanding is enormous. So let's use some examples to explain the cost. First of all, you can have a technical compliant recruitment process and still appoint the wrong people. You can have a performance management system and still tolerate poor performance. You can have a workplace skills plan and still spend millions of rand on training people, but materially it does not improve organizational capability. You can have an improved organogram and still have the wrong skills in the wrong places or too many people delivering a specific function. And you can achieve better outcomes without the necessary services um, that have a positive impact on the lives of our communities. So every time professionalization gets pushed back into the HR department, the municipality misses the bigger question. So what is the question? How do we build an institution capable of delivering on its mandate consistently, irrespective of who manage the municipality on a political or administrative level at a particular point in time? That is the question government institutions, organizations should have.
Ati, so let's settle it directly. Professionalization is not an HR initiative. It's a municipal transformation agenda. Unpack that. What does professionalization actually mean in full, and why does the distinction matter so fundamentally?
For me, Dan, professionalization is fundamentally about institutional capability. It means moving away from municipalities that depend on particular individuals to municipalities that depend on strong institutions, competent people, and effective and optimized systems. So I would describe it in type of a chain process or in a one process following on a next process. So starting from having competent people, supporting competent leadership to develop high performing teams, creating a high performing municipality, delivering improved services and creating public trust. That trust element is the end product of a very long professionalization process, and that for me is professionalization. It starts before somebody is appointed. Okay, so I've just listed a few things that I would like to share with you. So I'm just going to run through them to explain professionalization in a bit more detail. So first of all, do we actually understand that the capability or what the municipality actually needs? Okay, so if we understand the needs of the municipality, then we would be able to determine what the structure should look like. We should then be able to determine what jobs needs to be properly designed to deliver the required services. We would be able to then recruit on merit. We will be able to assess competence rather than simply checking qualifications. And for me, it happens so often that we say, okay, we ask one or two technical questions and then we have competency-based assessment. That is nonsense. We need to follow through a decent process to test competency in detail in terms of the regulations. Okay. Then once somebody is appointed, it does not stop there. We then need to develop them. Okay, so from a list further on, are we managing their performance? Are we measuring whether they are contributing to municipal outcomes? Are we dealing with underperformance? Are we building succession capability? And throughout all of that, are people behaving ethically and being held accountable for what they do? That is why I describe professionalization as a municipal transformation agenda, not just a HR program. And you would be able to see that, it is not the HR that now recruit and then they don't have to worry. Okay, there's a process where the leadership now needs to take over and they need to make sure that they understand the capability and they assess the individuals in terms of the capability when they look at performance, and then through that they develop those individuals to get to be able to deliver optimized services ultimately. Okay, so it touches on organizational design. In summary, it touches on recruitment, it touches on competency levels and the assessment of competency and the maintenance of competency. It touches on continuous leadership, not only when certain processes and functions happen, but throughout. It touches on continuous performance management and performance enhancements. We obviously need to consider finances because we can't do anything without proper financial management, the governance processes that goes with that, the technology that we need to support all these processes, municipal processes, ethics, and service delivery. So importantly, if we look at Regulation 890, it already assists us to implement a lot of these processes from an HR process. But now management needs to take over and they need to make sure that they manage their staff on a continuous basis. So professionalization isn't something happening on the edge of municipal management. It changes the way that we think about municipal service delivery and how a municipality is actually managed.
You've identified 6 building blocks of a professional municipality: appointments, competency, optimization, regulation, performance, and ethics. Be honest about where municipalities actually are. Which blocks are being managed with any seriousness, and where are the real gaps?
Okay, so this is a dangerous question to ask me. And as you might know, I'm normally fairly direct and not always afraid of explaining and saying what I feel. So let's tackle this danger and let's respond to this question. So we can't just say that professionalization is not working because we need to be fair. There are municipalities that's really doing excellent work, and we should acknowledge that. But if I look at what is currently happening, I would divide professionalization into the 6 building blocks, and I will divide those into 3 categories, which I'll just touch base quickly, and we can explain, go into that in a lot more detail at a later stage. But just to explain what I'm trying to say and why I'm saying that professionalization is not working within municipalities at this stage, or if it's working, maybe 1, 2, 3 municipalities maximum throughout the country. So first of all, my first category would be appointments and then adherence to the regulations. And, municipalities are doing a lot around that because it is compliance driven and it is not so difficult to do. So with regards to appointments and the compliance with regulations, not too bad. Then we have performance management and competency management as the second grouping. And this is where the implementations become far more uneven within municipalities. Many municipalities have performance management systems. Far fewer have created a performance culture, you know, and that is where, what I've mentioned a bit earlier, where leadership don't really understand performance management the way that they should, and then creating a performance culture rather than just complying by saying, I've measured performance and I gave somebody a score, whatever. Okay. So similarly, municipalities spend significant resources on training, but training is not the same as leadership and competency development. And we can see at if we look currently at the pipeline of senior managers within municipalities throughout the country, this is a major challenge. If I was the minister of local government in this country, I will not sleep because I don't know where it's going to find senior managers to manage municipality and to lead municipalities properly going forward. Okay. Then there are the two areas that I think the biggest opportunity exists in, and that is municipal optimization and then ethics and accountability. Optimization asks the questions that we historically don't want to ask. And these are, I've just listed a few again. I'm just going to run through them. Do we have the right organizational structure? And I've referred to that a bit earlier with regards to the alignment with the long-term strategy as well as with the core functions of the municipality. Then, second question that I have here is, where are we over-resourced or under-resourced? And we see so often when we look at org structures that, in some departments there's way too many people. And I can tell you, we did the organizational structure redesign of a municipality, and we've interviewed the one person, and we've asked this lady, how long do you work here? She said, no, 7 years. Then we said, okay, what do you do? So then she said to us, for 7 years, I'm waiting for them to give me something to do, but I'm here every day. So how effective is that organizational structure that was designed by very professional people? Okay. So the over-resourcing and under-resourcing remains a challenge. Okay, the next question that I've written down here is, what does our employee investment actually produce? In other words, if we invest in employees, if we employ, if we train, if we support, is that aligned with what we need to deliver? And can we see that the work is actually improving in the process? And I'm not so sure about that. Maybe in limited spaces, but I'm not so sure about it. Can technology eliminate unnecessary processes? So yes, we do have technology. We've got lots of data, especially with the MSCOA processes. So I've asked a few municipalities the other day, just with the process that I'm involved in, is just give me the link to your financial system, because you've indicated that you have moved into a web-based environment. Most of the municipalities could not do that. So they believe they've moved towards web-based, but I'm not sure what they mean by having data, or maybe they do not understand what they mean by having web-based data. So quality of the data, and then obviously how they package the data to ensure that, that they can actually professionalize. In other words, that they can optimize their processes remains a challenge. And then the next question that I have here is, are scarce professional skills being used where they create the greatest value? Do we use people to create the maximum value out of them, or are they just there? We have the qualification and then we use it from there. Okay. And then ethics and accountability must obviously run through all these processes. So you can recruit the most technical competent person in the country, but if they are not ethical, and if you don't have leadership supporting the individual, if they are not held accountable for what they actually needs to do, and they do not exercise the technical competence that they have, then we haven't produced a professional municipality. Okay. That is also consistent with the direction of the current national reforms, and we spoke about, some of the reforms that's currently taking place, and the focus on professionalization, the focus on ethical leadership, the focus on institutional capability, performance management, and accountability. But if we don't use this as a combined initiative, it will not work. So my view is that there is serious work to be done within municipalities. And because I'm honest, there are serious gaps to be addressed in all municipalities that I've worked in so far.
The reform pressure is real and escalating. The 2026 white paper, the 10 by 10 forum launched just recently. Why is this moment genuinely different from the last time someone declared professionalization as a national priority?
Okay, so I think this is most probably one of the most important questions that you have asked so far today. Okay, so municipalities are so used to reform, they've heard about reform before, and that creates a lot of skepticism and in terms of the understandability of what this reform means in comparison with others. So just want to use one or two examples, and maybe that will explain why it is so important that we need to get this time right, and also, that we have the opportunity to get it right at this stage. So, first of all, 2026 is very interesting because there's an urgency and there's a focus on reforms. And it started with the regulation 890 that's already established. We have the revised white paper on local government, and then there's various pieces of legislation that support the white paper when it is finalized, even within the draft, and then also regulation 890. Okay. If we look at the 2026 process, then we'll see that we talk about the reform of the local government systems, alongside with differentiated governance, stronger cooperative governance, political stability, political professionalization to some element, and I hope that the national department can drive professionalization of the political arm a lot more as well, because I just think it's going to add massive value. Okay, and then fiscal reform. So government has implemented quite a few regulations, has supported it, talking about it, especially entering into the new election phase in the local government level. So there's a lot that has been done. One of the big initiatives that government introduced on the 2nd of July 2026 was to get the Auditor General and COCTA to launch the 10 by 10 forum. Okay, what I found significantly about the initiative is the intention to move from just having audit findings beyond the traditional oversight into a more coordinated intervention, bringing the AG, the National COCTA, as well as the 9 departments that's looking after local government in a structured format to look and to focus on governance, capability, and accountability. So when the 10 by 10 was launched, the minister's remarks at that launch were particularly important. So what did he say? I'm just gonna say he connected sustainable municipal improvement with skilled administration, ethical leadership, sound financial management, oversight, and culture of accountability. So this comes back to everything that we've spoken about so far this morning. Okay, he specifically identified the deployment of competent staff through professionalization as a priority, which I love. I think if we can get this right, as I've mentioned, at the start of the session, we will make a massive impact. So my message to municipalities would be: don't look at these developments separately. Put the regulation 890, take the white paper reforms, use performance management, competency-based recruitment, audit outcomes, ethical leadership, and the 10 by 10 initiatives. Put all of that in on one page, and you'll see that you've got this amazing, clear picture that starts emerging in terms of professionalization. So the system is moving from asking then, do you have a policy or process towards asking, or can you demonstrate that your municipality is capable, competent, ethical, accountable, and delivering the services that it is expected to deliver? That is fundamentally the different test, and municipalities that recognize this shift early enough will have the opportunity to lead rather than just to respond at the end of the day to all these initiatives.
Ati, in closing of episode 1 of the series, a municipal manager listening to this right now, and they know the municipality is behind. Not the policy answer, the real answer. What is the most important question they should be asking themselves this week?
Let's talk about the uncomfortable question. I'm almost going to say the elephant in the room, but let's just talk about the uncomfortable question. It is, if I, as a municipal manager, had to prove today that my municipality is becoming more professional, what evidence would I put on the table? So it won't be, I don't want to know about policies. I don't want to know about standard processes. I would really love to see hardcore evidence. So I've just listed a few questions, to prove my point. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to go through these questions just to prove that municipal managers have quite a bit to do in the process of implementing professionalization. Okay, so the first question that I had here is: can I demonstrate that our structures reflect what we need to deliver in terms of our mandate and strategy, not sideshows? Okay, we love to focus on developing our structures around sideshows and additional, functions and so on. But does it reflect, does our system and our structures reflects our core function, our core responsibilities in terms of our mandate and our long-term strategy? The next question that I've written down here is, can I demonstrate that appointments are competency evidence-based? And again, I attended a municipal managers forum the other day, and they've asked me to talk a little bit about professionalization. I've asked them 6 questions. This was one of the 6 that I've asked. And only one municipal manager in that room of, I think it was 18 or 20 of them, said that I can respond positively to one question. And then when we went into detail, it was about, can I demonstrate that appointments are competency evidence based? Okay. Then they said, yes, we have technical questions in our interview, and if they respond, they're competent. That's nonsense, unfortunately. Okay. So if we need to have proper assessments done to determine whether individuals are competent in terms of all the functions and in terms of Regulation 890 with regards to the questions that they have there. Okay. Do I know where my critical competency gaps are? Okay. So if a municipal manager and senior managers are not hands-on, they will not understand the competency gaps within their departments. Okay. So professional leaders lead by example, and they lead by being present. Okay. And I'm just going to stop there. I'm not going to say anything else on that one. Okay. Can I show that every employee understands what performance is expected of them? Okay. So in other words, if I look at my performance plan, is it just a compliance performance plan with 5 indicators and that's what I need to do? Or does it actually demonstrate the core focus that I will have to have during the next year to make a service delivery impact? Okay. Next question that I have we established a performance culture? Now, a performance culture means that we have focused performance management. We manage performance on a daily basis. We identify the gaps. We help our people. We grow our people so that they can improve what they do, at least on a monthly basis. Okay. Next question is, can I demonstrate that poor performance has consequences and excellent performance is recognized? Don't have to say anything more on that. Do I have evidence that managers understand and deliver leadership and coaching to improve staff capability? My point about creating a performance culture and a developmental environment for our staff, not only for our residents. Do I have evidence that managers actually understand leadership and coaching to improve staff capability? Can I show that our training expenditure is improving institutional capability? So yes, we have the training budget. We have the necessary workplace skills plan, and we spend it. But how do we measure that the training that we have provided actually improve institutional capability? And we will quickly realize that maybe we spent money on the wrong type of training if we can't measure it. Okay. Can I demonstrate that we are getting appropriate value from our employee investment? Okay. I've spoke about that a little bit earlier on. Can I demonstrate that our workforce is aligned to our IDP, STBIP, and service delivery priorities? Okay. Almost done with my questions. Next question is, do I have sufficient and reliable data to make the right decisions at the first time? And this means that we need to do a bit of data analytics. We need to clean up our data. And I can actually tell you quickly, I'm going to interrupt myself. We have started to do this because it's part of our professionalization process, is to help managers to make better decisions with quality data. From payroll, straight through to leave, to overtime, etc., etc. In all instances where we've implemented data analytics, we had to go and clean up data. So before we arrived, people or managers made decisions on the data that they had. Okay. But the data were wrong because we had to clean up the data. What was the quality of their decisions that they had to make? And how could they then verify that they actually improved their processes? Okay. So that is why I say you need to understand the data that you have. You need to package it properly to make sure that you can demonstrate improvement in service delivery and in your municipal processes. And then lastly, can I demonstrate that ethics and accountability are part of how we operate within our municipality on a daily basis? So municipal managers, come back to my question, and I ask you to be very honest, okay, and do a proper institutional diagnostic type of index, and then determine how professionalized you are, determine the gaps that you have identified, and then start addressing those gaps. So in conclusion, I would say then, professionalization isn't about creating the perfect municipality. We're not going to get there because we don't live in a perfect world. Okay, it is about creating municipalities that can continuously become more capable in terms of what they are responsible for and what they do. For the past 20 more years, okay, so I've been involved in municipalities for 20, 25 years. So for the past 20, 25 years, we asked the questions and we have focused on policies, we have focused on structures, and we have focused on compliance. So much so that I think we overregulated and, we focused so much on compliance that we actually forgot what we need to do. So the next phase for me needs to be about capability, performance, and outcomes. Because remember, ultimately communities don't experience our policies, they experience our performance.
A big thank you to Ati Butler and Ignite for this insightful conversation on Future Cities Africa.